will fill the train with blood and send a message to the world. No one escapes the Mikado. Unless you're Christopher Lambert, of course. The Hunted is next on Drew Reviews. Guys, a few weeks ago I announced to celebrate 100 subscribers for the channel, I was going to give away a free review. And Ben won the review, and so we're going to talk about 1995's The Hunted, starring Christopher Lambert. And I just want to thank you guys because, in a matter of like a week, we blew way past 100. So, yeah, we're well on our way to 150 now. But I'll go over the plot of The Hunted just real quick. Christopher Lambert plays this man named Paul Racine, and he deals in computer chips, and he's on business in Nagoya, Japan. And so, after a successful venture, he goes to the hotel bar and he meets this gorgeous Japanese woman there. They hit it off and they go back to her place. Well, it turns out she's got a dark past, and after they make love and he leaves for the evening, these ninjas come in. And he realizes that he's got her keys in his hand, so he brings them back. And he actually sees the ninja's face, which in turn is stealing part of his soul. So they behead her, and of course he's called ahead to the police, so they attack him and leave him for dead, thinking that he will die. But Paul Racine becomes the only man to successfully evade a Mikado attack. And so he's in the hospital, and so they're afraid there's going to be another attack. And so this samurai and his wife come in, and they're like, hey, here's our number, we'll protect you while you're here. So after this really cool scene where he evades them at this like casino / arcade type thing, there's a really tense scene there with the ninja. He gets on the phone and he calls Takeda, the samurai, and he's like, hey, I'll meet you at the train station. So then they get to the train station, and this bullet train section is like the coolest part of the movie, but I'll get to more about that here in a little bit. But from there, they get to the island, and we're just awaiting the big showdown between Takeda, the samurai, and this master ninja played by John Lone, who was like in Rush Hour. So before I get to the things I like, a small disclaimer about this movie. If you're used to seeing Christopher Lambert in like Highlander or Fortress or something, where he plays the hero and he can use a sword, he is not that character in this movie. Like I said, he deals with computer chips, and so he's kind of a coward. He's hurt. All he can do is run, and so he's very much reliant on the samurai to do the fighting for him. Although later we find out that Takeda's actually using him as bait to lure Kinjo, the ninja, to his place. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic. But yeah, if you like Chris Lambert for his Highlander stuff and expect to see that in this movie, you might be disappointed. But as far as the things I like, they have that romance, and it's really well done in that opening scene with him and Joan Chin's character of Karina. And they go back to her place, and it's a really classy love scene, before the beheading and everything. But whenever he's under anesthesia and they're operating on him, he has these very vivid dreams of Karina coming to him. And of course, she was in that blood red dress. So these dreams, while he's under this anesthesia and the poison from the shurikens that hit him, he's seeing her in this white room, and there's red blood pooling behind her head. Just some really good contrast there. The hand-to-hand stuff in this movie is pretty good between the samurai and the ninjas. The main reason to watch this movie, though, is for the scene on the bullet train. If you can't find this movie anywhere, I think that bullet train scene is here on YouTube. Check that out. You've got all of them coming after Paul Racine because, he's seen Kinjo's face, and they're slaughtering everybody on the train. And so they start at the front of the train, and they're on the back, and they're slaughtering everybody until they get to that samurai. And of course, there's like 8 to 10 ninjas, and Takeda just takes them all out. And of course, the scene that I opened this review with, this lady ninja utters that in this fight, just before he kills her. They're throwing shurikens, throwing stars at him, and he's blocking them with his sword. Just some really good stuff. The fight at the end of this movie that they have, where Kinjo finally comes to face Takeda at his place where he's training all the young samurai, is really good. Of course, the ninjas, they use trickery, and a bunch of them come out of the boat. And of course, there's a lot of death there. But that fight in the rain that they have, that final showdown, it's really good. And I love, just as it starts to rain, the camera pulls back, and there's a really cool matte painting of like a traditional Japanese style house up on this hill. I really like that visual. During all this time, there's been like 3 weeks where Paul Racine's been on that island with Takeda, and he's been in hiding, but he's also been training with the drunken swordsman. You know, and a lot of these martial arts movies have that drunken character, and I liked it. He added a lot to this story, and him and Racine had a really good friendship. And so he did learn a little bit about samurai swordplay, and of course, that comes in handy in the end, you know, when it's just him and a very injured Takeda's wife against Shinjo. And that's a really good showdown. And I like that we did get to see Christopher Lambert show off a little bit of swordplay. The score to this movie is very different. It's very percussive. A lot of Japanese style drums and very little anything else. I've not heard another score quite like it. It really builds tension for some of those, you know, fight scenes there at the end with a lot of swordplay going on. As far as things in this movie that are just a little bit wonky, and I'm like, what? Kinjo, the bad ninja in this movie. So he's haunted by killing Karina earlier in the movie. He keeps having these dreams. She keeps coming back to him and haunting him. And he goes and faces the Yakuza boss that hired him to kill her. So, you know, he's having this big moral dilemma, yet it didn't bother him to send 8 to 10 ninjas to just slaughter, you know, dozens of people on a train. So that, I look at that and I was like, I don't know that all adds up, but that's kind of interesting to think about. Other than that, there wasn't too much in this movie that really detracted from me. If you're a person who doesn't like to read subtitles, you know, they speak a lot of Japanese in this movie, so you might not appreciate that, but this is kind of a Japanese martial arts style movie. And I will admit, I've not really watched my share of those. I've seen some Jet Li's, you know, and I think I've seen Mad Monkey Kung Fu and a couple of Bruce Lee movies. But, you know, this is all kind of new to me. But, you know, I didn't really have problem with the subtitles, and I thought it added, you know, to the foreign feel of the movie, and I appreciated it for that. So all in all, I really did like The Hunted, and I'm glad that Ben picked this movie because, like I said, I'd never seen it, and much like last week when I gave Black Moon Rising a 6.6, I'm going to do the same for The Hunted. I think it's just a little bit better than a 6.5. I know on IMDb it's like 5.9. Just that's IMDb for you. It's a lot of fun, especially if you like swordplay. There's a little bit of gunplay in there as well. Really like the samurai stuff, and it's very atmospheric. You really feel the culture of Japan in this movie. So yeah, I definitely recommend this movie. Give it a watch. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments. And as always, I'm Andrew, and I'll see you down the line.